Hi Moonbeams, it's Nikki T here at Moonchild Tarot and I've got a tag for you today. We are doing the Idealized Self Decks tag and this was created by the Somatic Sorceress. I will link her video and channel down below. Originally, I saw this from the wonderful Julia at Highly Sensitive Tarot. So I will link her video down there as well and check her out because she's wonderful. And this has really got me thinking and really got me digging into my collection. And I didn't think I had many that were my idealized self, but when I thought about it, there are quite a few. So there are 4 prompts. I've linked them down below. If this inspires you to do a video and do your responses, please tag me because I love to support everyone and see what that you're all up to. So without further ado, we will get on to the cards. The first prompt is idealized tarot decks. So decks you thought were for you, but they were really for your kind of ideal self, like your ideal tarot practitioner. And I think this one might come as no surprise to people that I have, and I'm still gonna stick with this one. But the first one that I've got is the Wildwood Tarot. And I bought this a year ago, just over a year ago. And I think that my idealized self, when I first kind of was exploring my witchcraft journey, was this kind of connecting into the earth, you know, digging into them pagan roots, into the ancestry, into kind of my ancestry and everything. And I think that was the reason why I bought this deck. I did want a winter feeling deck. Now, some of these cards have got, like this one, has got kind of a wintry, colder feeling, if you know what I mean. I do like to work seasonally with my decks. And I thought, yay, I'll just buy this. I had watched lots of videos. I did know things were swapped around and changed around. I was aware of that, but I don't think I was fully aware of how much was swapped and how much was changed, and how this is a very different system to the Rider-Waite-Smith. You can't just pick it up and just read with it. Well, you can, but the names are different, the order's different. And I think ideally I thought, oh, I'll be able to read the guidebook, I'll be able to remember everything. And that's kind of not where it's been. I have read with this. They have been successful readings. It's just, it's having that will to want to do a full deck study on it. Like, I'm doing a deck study on the Bone, Stone and Earth Flesh. I've had that like a month or two, and I just wanted to delve into it, and I wanted to really kind of get to the roots and the bones of it. With this, I'm like, the guidebook, when reading the guidebook, it doesn't seem like it's very easily digestible. Preference this. I'm dyslexic, so I struggle sometimes with when things are not laid out in a very kind of straightforward, literal manner. It's very hard to kind of sometimes read some people's writing just because they feel a bit too, I would say waffly, but kind of too flouncy. I like straight talking. I like, this is the reason I chose this, and like explaining why you've made the choices to the cards. So for that reason, this has been kind of in my very much kind of doom pile of tarot decks that I want to get around to but don't. And I don't know whether I ever will connect with this. I'm not sure. I'm not really into nature decks. You know, the artwork is beautiful. I do like the artwork. But again, it's got quite an older feeling to it. It is an older deck. And I think I'm more into the modern kind of vibe of art style rather than I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think my ideal self wanted to be this beautiful, you know, like pagan witch that kind of lives in the woods and grounds and things like that. And that's just not me. I am comfortable in my own home, in my own cozy spot. That's where I ground. That's where, at my tarot table, that's where I ground. That's where I feel peace. I do love nature. I do think going out every day and having your nature time is important. I'm fortunate that I live in a beautiful location. So, but I'm not someone who would always spend their time outdoors. I'm just not an outdoorsy person. So I think ideally I had this ideal of, you know, this pagan kind of grounded in earth witch, and it's just not kind of me there. And again, ideally I thought, oh, I'd have time to learn it. I'll read the guidebook. I'll learn it all. And I haven't. There's been other decks that I've been wanting to study first. Like I have now a long list of decks that I want to do deck studies on, or I want to get deeper into. So yeah, so this is the Wildwood Tarot. I don't know. I will probably be keeping it. It's mass market. They're hard to get rid of. I probably will keep it for now, and give it, you know, time to brew on me. But yeah, I think this was bought in my little connecting with nature, and then I've realized that's not really kind of me. That's not really my style. Now, a deck that is actually, I would say, my style but isn't, that I bought and I've been looking at for a while, and again, this comes down to wanting to study it. This is the Vlad Dracula Tarot, and I've got to be very careful with what I show because it is quite a graphic. I mean, look at that star. It's quite a graphically violent kind of idea behind the deck because it's based on the real inspiration for Dracula, which was Vlad the Impaler. And I thought, oh yeah, I don't mind this. I don't mind a little bit of you know, edge to my tarot deck. I've got edgy tarot decks. I've got dark tarot decks. I just feel like there's a bit of a jar between the way that the artwork is and the actual, you know, graphicness of the, you know, it's this beautiful like woodcut style, but then you've got some really horrendous kind of things there, if you know what I mean. I don't know whether it's because the artwork and the themes kind of don't match together, and I'm aware that this is a historical choice. This is a choice to honor the time and the art of the time. That's you know, this is as close to a historical deck I will get. I'm not a person that likes my historical decks, but like, look at that feel. But I don't know what it is. And again, I think my ideal self was, and I bought this was an impulse buy. I had been looking at it. I dismissed it a year ago, a year before. I dismissed it. I was buying the Murder of Crows Tarot, and this was on offer. And in order to kind of get the you know, make the most out of the postage, everything, I was like, oh, I'll just buy it. So I think this was more of an impulse buy. I do still like it. I do still read with it. But I think, again, my ideal self was, I'll read the guidebook. I'll have an understanding of what each thing. And I haven't read the guidebook. I haven't been called to do this. I might eventually get to do this. Again, my ideal self is, you know, that embracing that inner teen that was obsessed with Dracula, was obsessed with vampires and things like that. I still haven't read Dracula because, again, it's having that brain capacity and that motivation to want to do it, to want to read it, because it'll be, you know, it's a harder language to kind of tap into, and I might like listen to it. But again, this is my inner goth girl wanting to be really like knowledgeable, but really I'm just a bit of a lazy goth girl. I'm a kind of comfy goth, I would say, because I don't do the elaborate gothic outfits. I dress in really comfy, mostly black most of the time, with a spooky edge, like I'm in cobweb leggings today. And it has to be very, very comfy. And I think, again, my aspirational, this aesthetic of the dark girl fantasy was, I'll know everything about this deck and I'll know everything about Vlad the Impaler, and I've just not gotten around to it. I've just not had the time or the motivation to do it because there's been other things I've wanted to learn. Maybe I am going to give this more of a go in October time, September time, because then that'll feel like the season to kind of do it and honor it. But we'll see. Yeah, so this is the Vlad Dracula Tarot, and I don't know whether, because it is, I don't mind like graphic imagery, but sometimes it can be like that. It can be quite jarring for me. And I think, again, Julia said this really well, I think, in one of her videos. The world is a horrible place anyway. There's so much horror and darkness and everything. Sometimes I don't need it in my tarot deck, but I have got dark decks. So it's a bit of a weird one that this one hits in a different way. I don't think it's the deck, I think it's me. Like, this is a case of, this is me, not the deck. And possibly I've got the guidebook there on my shelf ready to read. It's having that dedication to want to do it. Now, funnily enough, when we talk about like deck studies and things like that, another deck that I have actually said I'm going to do a deck study on, and I'm in the middle of doing a deck study on, and again, I think this is my ideal self. This is the Surrealist Tarot. I'm currently working on a card a day, looking at each of these. I think I'm going to have to take it longer because I'm going to have to get to a point where I do most of the cards, because I think ideally I thought the inner artist in me is very surreal, very I like surrealist art. I like kind of your Francis Bacon, your Picasso, your Dalis, your things like that. There are not like picture pretty realistic artwork. And I got this, and this was the card I got yesterday actually, that I was looking at. And then I got this thinking, oh, this is going to fire off my intuition. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. And then looking at this card, I'm like, how is this a Nine of Swords? I was completely stumped. And the guidebook, I've moved the guidebook. The guidebook is tiny. So you've not got, like, why did the artist do it? And without the artist interpretations of why they're doing it, I'm really struggling to bond with this. It might be that I need to spend more time with it. It possibly is. But again, this is my embracing my abstract love of abstract art, of surrealist art and things like that. Like, why is there an apple? Why a rose? I want to know these things. And I can draw my own conclusions, but then I get a hesitancy about, oh, am I right? And things like that. My, ideal inner self would be able to read this and go, oh, well, highly intellectualize it and go, oh, well, yes, I know that there was 9 clouds there, but obviously the apple indicates X, Y, and Z. I don't know whether I'm kind of as astute to be able to do that. I want to have a bit of a guideline. So yeah, this is a maybe on the Idealized Self. I love the artwork. I love looking at it, and I would use it possibly for readings more for myself. But I think again, if I'm reading for somebody else, I think I've got to know the cards pretty well. And with this, I'm struggling with thinking, well, why have they done it? I think the Temperance card, there it was. I got the Temperance card yesterday, and I was like, why is there sheep? Like, why is there sheep? Why? I want to know. I want to know. So I'm going to do some more researching, but I think my, artistic, inner kind of intellectualized artistic streak, and I wanted to push that, is now kind of like, but I need to have a definite why they've picked it rather than a little quote in the guidebook type thing. So yeah, I thought I'd be able to use my intuition with it and think, oh well, there's obviously a speaker there because of XYZ. I don't know. I can't think of why they would have a speaker there for now and how it links to Temperance. This is called the crystal bathroom. Make of that what you will. So I think again, this might be another one where I go, yeah, my ideal self wanted to be this very artistic person that could, analyze the artwork. I mean, that's pretty easy to make out. Some of them will be, but I think some of them might be a struggle. So yeah, so this is a maybe on my my idealized self list. We'll see, but I think my pattern recognition is good. I probably will end up going, oh, I won't use it that much in the future, which would be a shame. Another deck that I'm going to talk about very quickly with before I go on to a controversial one for the I've got more tarot decks than oracle decks because I mainly have tarot. I'm going to do a controversial one next, but I'm going to quickly talk about the Wicked Tarot because my ideal self is Elphaba in a way. I've always identified with Elphaba. Wicked is one of my favourite musicals. And I thought when I saw this as a tarot deck, even my husband said, oh, I've got a tarot deck I could get you for Christmas. It's a Wicked Tarot. Like, it's ideal for me because I love Wicked. I love musicals. I love this kind of Wicked Witch of the West vibe. I was never the one that would follow Dorothy. I'd be more interested in the villain. I find the villains more intriguing than the heroes. But I can't get on with this deck. I can't read for myself with this deck. I struggle reading for others. Yes, I could use the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretation of the cards, but the imagery, some of the imagery is just so, I feel like, badly placed. And whereas the Surrealist Tarot might be it's me, not the deck kind of issue, and the same with the Vlad Dracula. I'm very much, this is the deck, not me. This is the deck's issue and not me. And a few other people have kind of said it on their videos as well. Like, the guidebook is so thin and very, very brief, and it doesn't explain why they've chosen these cards and chosen these images. I want that explanation so that I can bond. That's how I bond with a deck, knowing the author's intention, the writers, the creator's intention of why they did it. Like, Bok as temperate. Well, I can see that it's got the light side and the dark side within the character of Bok. I can see that, but some of the others, I'm like, it just, for me, it misfires. It very much kind of misfires with its readings. Like the Lion for the Hermit. It just doesn't. I want to be able to read this artwork and read it from the film like I do with my Labyrinth deck. My Labyrinth deck, I read it using examples from the film. So people who like the Labyrinth deck will request the Labyrinth deck for a reading, and I will use examples from the film to highlight my point, because I know that film inside out. I know this musical very well. I've seen it twice on the not the West End. Well, I've seen it once in the West End stage, and I've seen it once touring. I know it really, really well. I know the film well. Like, yeah. This is this deck's problem, not mine. Like that for the 9 of coins. What? Why? Yeah. And I think my idealized self was, I'll be always reading with the Wicked deck. I'll be able to use the Wicked deck on lives because it's, again, people know Wicked and it's very popular and everything. And I'll be able to fly. I'll be able to use this all the time. I'll want to read, like, how again is that the 9 of Swords? And I know, I know what the bottle means and everything like that, but how is that worries, fears and anxiety? I just would have liked the guidebook to have explained why, and then that would click further. That would be better, I think. And again, again, it might be, light side, shadow side for the character, but I don't see this as the Empress. And this was the one card that when I turned it over and I went, what? And I was like, I just can't see it. So, and yes, possibly light and shadow and things like that. But again, I bought this ideally that I would be using it all the time. I would be reading with it all the time because it's one of my favourite films, one of my favourite musicals. And my ideal inner musical theatre geek wanted to love this deck so much and couldn't. I just can't. I just think it was a bit of a cash grab. And personally, I think the problem with a lot of these pop culture decks is they are produced, like Insight Editions, for example. I don't know whether this is Insight Editions or... Yeah, it is Insight Editions. The problem with the Insight Editions ones, the author of a lot of these decks is the same person. And it's like, how can you have such a knowledge of the film or the TV show? How can you, and have, you could have a really extensive knowledge of tarot, but how can you have such an extensive knowledge of all of these films to do a deck for? I think, yeah, you know what I mean? So it just, I'm going to be very wary about like Insight Edition, pop culture decks. I've stopped like investing in them now just because I think they let me down. I've got the Dark Crystal one on my wish list, but I'm probably never going to buy that because, one, I don't know the film as well, but two, again, it's gonna be a little bit disappointing. I just think, yeah, my idealized self wanted to love the Wicked tarot deck, the same with the Marvel tarot deck. All these kind of pop culture decks I want to love, I want to get behind, and I want to support because I am a pop culture girly. I am obsessed with film and TV. They are my jam. I talk in movie quotes all the time. It triggers my echolalia. Somebody will say something and I'll say a quote from a film or a movie or a song or something like that. I am very much the girl of the 80s and 90s and want these pop culture decks to work, but they just don't. For me, they just don't hit the mark. The Marvel one, again, very little explanation as to why they've chosen the things, and they weren't scenic, so it was harder to read. I still have got the Marvel deck as a collector item. This is a collector item, it's not going anywhere, but I'm never going to probably read tarot with it. I'm just going to have it there to look at the pictures occasionally and go, oh, isn't this a pretty deck? Isn't this a beautiful deck? And it's getting me more wound and wound up as I do it. I'm like going, ooh. throwing the cards around. Yeah. So, and I mean, the exception to this rule is my Labyrinth deck, because I think that is such a really well done deck. It is a pip deck, which wasn't ideal, but I can use examples from the film anyway with the pips to kind of read with it a lot more, because I know that film like the back of my hand, for example. But I know Wicked very well, so yeah, excuse me. Now to the controversial one. This is going to be possibly a long video. I'm going to be quick with this because I got on a big rant about pop culture decks and what, you know, my ideal self wanted to buy into these pop culture decks, but then I got disappointed because it's just a cash, you know, it's just the dedication, the time and the energy hasn't been put in, and I feel it's a bit of a cash grab. Now this is a controversial one, and I'm a bit afraid to show it really. My idealized self wants to be able to read with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but I just don't read with it. I use it for study purposes, so I use it as a means of using it as this is kind of one of the tried and tested systems, the imagery, everything that's baked in the cards. I have it. I won't get rid of. I will always have a Rider-Waite-Smith. But I don't understand these people that collect 20, 30, 40 versions of the Rider-Waite-Smith. I don't see it. And that's my personal opinion. I did want to get into buying more Rider-Waite-Smiths, and the Wiser Tarot I keep looking at, because again, that's more painterly and it's more watercolor, and I love watercolor kind of art work and things, but I'm just probably not going to read it, so I'm probably not going to buy it. This is just a standard Rider-Waite, you know, Smith type deck. And yeah, I just don't, I just feel like, yes, the artwork is medieval. I'm not a big fan of kind of historical decks or older decks or things like that. I'm very much of like your modern kind of modern imagery and modern symbolism, because that's the way I identify and work. So I just don't, I feel a bit cold when I'm reading with this. I can read with it, you know, well and everything like that, but I just don't get the enjoyment out of reading from this than I do some of my other decks, like the Tarot of the Abyss, the Crow Tarot, the Bone, Stone and Earth Flesh Tarot. Love reading with that. The Joker Tarot or the Murderer Crows Tarot. Like those decks I get much more of an intuitive hit from. I can read more into it. This is just, I don't know. I understand why everything's there. I kind of get the symbolism, but I just, yeah, my ideal self would be reading with a Rider-Waite-Smith. I follow quite a few people who just read with a Rider-Waite-Smith, and I would love to be that person that could do that, but I'm not. I just can't gel with the artwork. I just can't gel with it completely. I just don't know. There's just some sort of switch where, and I did, you know, when I first got back into tarot, I read with this, but there felt like a bit of a disconnect. So I have it just for study. Now, second, that's been half an hour. That's been a long time. It's going to be a long video, so strap in. I'm going to try and be quicker with the Oracle decks and the other things. So, yeah. Let's move on to the Oracle decks. Now, this should be a lot shorter because I do not own a lot of Oracle decks. And I think that is another thing with my idealized self, that I think I see a lot of people read with Oracle decks and get loads of information. They really vibe with Oracle decks more than, say, tarot. I need a little bit more structure. I want to be able to use loads of oracle decks and mix my tarot and my oracle, but I just don't. So yeah, I think oracle is something that I'm not really drawn to, and that's maybe for the third question, which is about the practices other people do that I kind of don't do. But the first oracle deck that I've got is the Solitary Witch oracle. If you've known me or watched my channel for a bit, you might have seen me go on about how big this deck is, and I've got tiny hands. So that is another thing where I'm like, yeah, my idealized self can shuffle this, but in reality, I struggle shuffling. I struggle shuffling anyway because I have got very weak hands. I don't have very good like hand strength, and also if it's larger, I do struggle with it. I have been tempted to cut the borders off and maybe cut a bit of the bottom to make it a bit more easier and mod it, because I can't cut off the top because it will cut off the imagery. I bought this mainly because I saw my mentor using it and went, oh, that's beautiful artwork, I love it, it's whimsical, it's witchy, it's whimsical, I'll be able to kind of use that. Little did I know that it doesn't really have those keywords on. I would have preferred keywords to, you know, the witch that shows her daughter the moon. Like, I can read into that and read into the picture and everything like that. It just doesn't, there's something with it that doesn't. And again, this might be a guidebook issue. This might be an issue of I've got to spend time with it. This is actually going to be my oracle daily pull for a bit. I have been using the Fairy Oracle by Brian Froud, and I've got a bit bored with that, so I'm going to give that a rest and I'm going to move it onto this, and I'm going to take the guidebook and I'm going to try and pick some more out of the guidebook that I can to kind of bond with this deck a little bit more and give it a bit more of a chance. But my ideal self is this whimsical, witchy, like all in nature, everything's beautiful, like vibe, this, kind of Stevie Nicks playing in the background and things like that. And that's not me. I am a very comfy, lazy, cut corners where I need to type of person. I've got kids, I've got to at the moment. Like, I don't have the brain capacity to really spend that much time with my decks, and that's maybe why this deck, it's not going anywhere. Most of these decks are not going anywhere at the moment, but it is something where I will be able to read from this immediately. I will be able to kind of read intuitively straight away with this deck. No, you need to learn it. And then again, that puts me off. So my Stacey DeMarco decks are great. They've got a keyword. I jump from the keyword. I use that keyword. I use the imagery. Even the imagery, even if it had a keyword, it would be so much better. And maybe I mod it and write some keywords in there or cover it up or something like that. Yeah, maybe I do mod this deck because, again, I got it secondhand, so I got it quite reasonable. Maybe I cut it down, and again, people were on my live were going mad, going, don't cut the borders, don't cut it down. But it is such a hard shuffle for me that I'm just like, I don't really pick this up a lot. So yeah. So embracing that kind of inner witch, I don't know whether that is my idealized self. I am very practical, I am very scientific, and I am going back to kind of being into that. I believe in the woo-woo as well. I believe it's a mixture of half and half, but I fully wanted to embrace that witchiness, that fully committed witchcraft kind of vibe to things. But I don't think that's me, and I don't think that's practical. You've got to kind of have a bit of a scientific, practical edge with it. So, yeah. So, that is the Solitary Witch Oracle. Now, the second Oracle deck, there's only two, is another witchy deck. And again, I think for similar reasons, this is the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. And I've used this quite a bit. I would, again, prefer keywords just under the bottom. I vibe with this artwork a lot more than the later Seasons of the Witches artwork. And I mean, I do have the tarot deck, the winter tarot deck, and I do really like that actually. But I don't know what it is with this. Is again, I find that in order to fully be able to use it a lot, you have to be dipping into the guidebook. And I don't really have that capacity time or whatever. I do know it better than the Solitary Witch, but it just, I have used it for a lot of readings. It just, again, it's that witchiness, that darkness, that kind of me wanting to encapsulate my kind of inner witch vibe. It just doesn't speak to me in the way that some other decks kind of speak to me or talk to me. It's not as vocal, I think, than some of the decks I use, like even the Deep, Dark and Dangerous, the Moonology decks that I have. They're very much more straightforward, and I can straightforward and jump off. Some of these I'm kind of scratching my head at, like, yeah. And I think this was, oh, I'm going to be witchy. I'm going to have loads of witchy decks. I'm going to read, do lots of witchy readings for myself. I don't have the time. I don't pick up Oracle a lot. Again, I just don't have that inclination to go, oh, I'll pick up an Oracle deck and I'll go with this. I want that structure and that almost rigidity of the tarot. I think my neurodivergent brain likes that structure and likes that fail-safe of the 78, whereas this is kind of more, it's wishy-washy, and I can't do wishy-washy. So yeah, and I think that's the problem I find with all Oracle decks, is I struggle with it because it's such a more free structure. It's not got, the deep facets within it, so it's more subjective and open to interpretation. And I think that is where I struggle in terms of my tarot oracle practice, using them. So I will generally only use oracle as kind of a clarifier or a backing up of things after I've done, the main bit of the tarot. Anyway, I'm gonna turn the camera around and I'm gonna then go on to the tarot practices that were my idealized self tarot practices I thought I was gonna embrace, and I sadly kind of haven't, or learned that that's not me. So I will flip the camera around. So the next part of the tag is the tarot practices that you see other people doing and that you kind of want to adopt, and then it doesn't kind of work, or you realize that that's your idealized self. So again, Oracle decks. I think my idealized self would be picking up an Oracle deck, having lots of Oracle decks. Sorry, they're here at the side. Having lots of Oracle decks and being able to use them and connect with them and emote with them and kind of using their intuition with it. I just don't connect as well with Oracle than I do with tarot. Again, I think my neurodivergent brain is very much like structure, likes rigidity, likes structure, and likes that kind of idea of your cups are about emotions and relationships and things, you know what I mean? So you've got that structure to cling on to. Maybe it's more the oracle has you trusting on your inner voice, trusting on your intuition more, kind of using them skills more. And maybe that's a confidence thing with me. Maybe it is that I stick like quite rigidly to tarot because of a confidence thing, and moving forward with that. But I just don't know. I just love tarot, and I want to learn as much as I can about tarot, about the structure, about, you know, the history and everything. Oracles is a bit of a newer thing, and I just, yeah, and that's fine. I just don't kind of, I think my idealized self would have a mixture of tarot and oracle. Again, that would complement each other, that would like link together, and that would kind of match, that pairings, deck pairings. Again, I see loads of people do deck pairings, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that, it doesn't happen. I think deck pairings, again, is something, a practice that I don't really use a lot of. I do have decks that I will use with certain tarot decks, and for example, I'll use I'm trying to see if I can see it, my Dark Goddess Oracle with my Tarot of the Abyss, because the artwork is kind of in the same pen and ink style. But I won't have that many that kind of match aesthetically, or I will match them energy wise, but then I don't use them a lot because I get what I need from the tarot, if that makes sense. So yeah, another idealized practice is and I'm gonna have to move my tarot decks because my tarot decks were thinged, is this kind of pretty planners. Having the tarot practice of having a beautiful, like, I mean, this is the month finished, I'm probably not going to put stickers on, I'm probably not going to decorate it. Having that beautiful kind of tarot journal that is nicely decorated, that is aesthetic, that is just beautiful. And this year I've been writing my tarot practice down, because I didn't used to. I had a tarot journal, I would write a lot when I was learning in my tarot journal, and then I just stopped, because again, it's brain capacity that I don't quite have. So this year I am making an effort to use a tarot planner to write things down, to look back at things and stuff. But I'm not, again, Julia mentioned this in her video, I'm not a person that likes looking back. I'm not a person that kind of likes, and especially if it's dark or it's heavy or whatever, I don't kind of like looking back. I very much want to kind of move. I think maybe I'm more in the future, in the present, like just what do I need to know now? What do I need to know today? So looking back on the past is not something I kind of do a lot. So them journals are just going to kind of sit there. So I don't know, but it is good to write it down and to get my thoughts. It has helped me kind of think about how it's, you know, that energy has been impacted in my day, and putting those thoughts down. And again, Julia mentioned one of her tarot practices she could kind of was for an ideal self is journaling. Like these people who can write about a card and journal and journal and journal and write pages and pages and pages, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. My idealized self has bought notebooks, would love to do it, but I'm very much, this is this links to this, gone. You know, I notice now I'm more similar to my son. My son will, again, he will write the shortest sentence in existence to just get his point across, because he's very direct. And I think that's where maybe I am, is that I will just say, oh, this links to this is because of this made me feel like this, and that's it. That's my journaling practice. And I found that, last month I was journaling. I've done 2 months of kind of pulling a card a day, journaling about how it was impacted in my day, or how it kind of feels having that card. And I've kind of gone, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not enjoying writing about my day, because then I'll be focusing. I feel like with journaling, I tend to focus more on the negative. So I think for my own kind of mental health, I think, and it's helped when times have been hard. That's the thing. Journaling is great. I think when times have been a bit tough, when I've had like, February's been a really, really hard month, and it started off with a very rude neurologist of mine, anyway, and I pulled the tower either the day before or that day, and it really did help me. It helped me, journal. But when I'm good, when I'm kind of feeling, at the moment I'm feeling quite happy, things are all right, I don't really want to dig deep into it. I don't really want to keep analysing things. I just want to get on. I just want to get on and do things. So I suppose that's why this month I'm doing more of a kind of deck study feel, where I'll pull a card from the Surrealist Tarot and I'll write about the imagery and how I think it links to the cards and things like that. So that's more like learning the cards, or learning that deck, and my kind of developing the relationship with that deck, rather than like doing the inner work and things. Yeah, I do think that journaling is a really, really good practice, but I just can't do it every day. So I think my ideal self would have loads of journals and be writing in it, and writing lots, and that. My hands really struggle, so my writing's big and scrawly, like you can see on there. Like, I don't even keep onto the lines sometimes. I just, yeah, it's just a practice that doesn't really like fit with me. And I think there are lots of tarot decks that I look at and I see a lot of people raving about and loving, and it's almost, I want to be in with the cool kids. I want to, be like, oh yeah, I get the hype. Like the Labanco Tarot, the amount of people going on about the Labanco Tarot, I've had it on my wish list and I just can't pull the plug. I just don't know what it is. That's something, and I don't know whether it is my inner kind of rebellion or rebelliousness that kind of goes, I don't want to buy it, don't want to buy it. And maybe it is because loads of people like it or whatever. Historical decks, I don't have an aversion to historical decks. I just don't vibe with them, and that's okay. I suppose, like, there are a few decks that I've bought where I think it's more my idealized self, and I'm learning now a lot more, and I've learned it quite quickly, fortunately, that just because other people like a deck doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. Just because, yeah, it is, I've got a very, very specific taste, and that's what I'm finding out. I've got a very, very specific taste, and if I don't gel with the artwork, if it doesn't speak to me, I am not gonna engage with it. A case in point is the Tarot Vampires. Now, I got the Spanish edition because I couldn't get the English edition because it's going for silly prices on selling sites. At first I dismissed this deck, but looking at it more and more, this is artwork I can read into, I can look at, and I can gather, and I want to spend the time with this, learning like what does what each, I'm even thinking of putting like a label on or something like that, to kind of, so I don't have to use my phone to do the Spanish translation all the time. But I saw so many people going on about this, and again, my inner, I don't want to follow the crowd. Well, I'm not going to buy it. And then when it went out of print, I was so gutted that I couldn't have it. Now I've got it, I'm like, yeah, I do actually like it. I do actually want to read with it. and it is my kind of style, it is my vibe, it is my like, look at that, like, I see beauty in the darkness. That is, I think that is my my kind of, and I don't mean like horrible, violent, you know. I think that's why the Vlad Dracula tarot is a bit more of a struggle, because that is just graphic. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. This is, yes, it's got, you know, strong kind of vibes to it, in terms of it could be deemed as dark, but like this is my favorite Hangman card. It's dark, but it's got beauty behind it, and I think that's what I think that's my idealized self, is I'm dark and beautiful. You know, my sense of humor is not, I grew up with Monty Python. My sense of humor is a bit strange, and that's, you know, that's fine. So yeah, so my tarot practice journaling is something that I do struggle with. Deck studies, I don't as much, because I know that the somatic sorceress mentioned about, she struggles with deck studies. I'm okay with the deck study kind of part with it, because again, I think I am a very person that likes to, I spent 22 years teaching. I like that kind of, you know, getting a book, having a page for each book, writing, you know, skimming the text, picking bits out that you like and putting it in the book to help you learn. I think, yeah, deck studies I find really useful. But again, it's got to be a deck that I want to learn. The next deck study is going to be, and it's going to be a struggle, because I've only got the guidebook on my phone. I mean, yes, I can use the guidebook in there, but I would be constantly like translating it. So I've got the English guidebook on my phone, and it is detailed. Yeah, studying that's going to take a long time. But I'm willing to do that, because that's a deck I really want to use a lot for myself. It fires me up. Yeah. And I think as well, in my tarot practice, another thing that I've realized is my idealized self was like, I want all the decks. I want all of this shelf to be filled with decks, which it kind of is. You know, I want bookcases of decks and stuff. And I've come to realize that actually I would probably be very overwhelmed by that. Like, I have got these decks out at the moment. This is full. Excuse me. Dinging my bell there. Once this is kind of full, I'm probably gonna feel like I'm at my limit, and maybe I will get rid of some and then bring some in and whatever, because I think if I can't see my tarot decks, if I can't see that they're there, I won't use them. I'm very much out of sight, out of mind. I know that I've got, say, the Kawaii Tarot, because it's in this bag. I know that they're both the Joker and the Deviant Moon. Like, I know all of my decks that I have. I've got no decks that I'm like, oh, I didn't know I had that. So I think I would get quite easily overwhelmed with lots of tarot decks. So at the moment, and again, this is a thing, there are lots of tarot decks that really I don't vibe with. There's loads, and I'm looking at the artwork and I'm going, I wish I could like it. I wish I could enjoy it. Again, like the Lubanco Tarot, I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's just something that just doesn't really reach and pull to me and pull me in. Whereas I've got two Triumph della Lunas. I've got the Pips edition and I've got the illustrated Pips. That artwork, I know, really kind of I vibe with. So the same with Corrado Roy decks. I really do vibe with it. And I think, yeah, just knowing what I like and maybe being okay with everybody else just, You know, there are so many decks now on the market that you could never ever fill, you know, them all in and stuff. And yeah, so that's moving me a bit onto the kind of conclusions. So the conclusions I've made from this is that my taste isn't for everyone. Like, I've got very particular taste in decks. My real self has very particular taste in decks, that, and I have to have a place for the deck. So for example, my Goddess of Love Tarot has a particular place in my deck collection. It has a particular purpose, and I won't get rid of it. Even though the artwork is kind of not as much my style, it serves a very particular purpose, and that's okay. I need a purpose for the deck. I don't just want it for the pretty pictures and things like that. Although it is nice, I've got to feel like I want to use my decks. And again, I've bought things like, I bought the Shakespeare Tarot because it was on a auction site. I saw it, I thought it's a 90s version. I love Shakespeare. Have I used it? Have I? Heck. This is kind of me going, oh, I'll get it as a collector. What's the point when I'm here to read cards? I want to read cards. Like, it just, yeah. And it wasn't much. It was quite cheap, and the box is quite battered and whatever. And I will still, you know, I might bring it out and use it kind of with an intention to use it. And again, there's another Shakespeare Tarot that I've seen that I actually think I would like the artwork a bit better, because it's very similar to the Wicked Tarot. I'm gonna have a look at it. It's not out yet, but again, I love Shakespeare, so I thought a Shakespeare deck would be great, but not that one. So again, my taste is not, I've got a very, very particular taste. And if a deck, everybody's raving about a deck, like the Ritual Tarot, for example, never really wanted to buy it. Lots of people rave about it, never wanted to buy it. There are a lot of indie decks that I just kind of go, look at it and go, nah, I'm not into it. And I don't know whether the price factors into it, but I've bought indie decks as well. I've bought MJ Cullinane's decks and things like that. So I don't know whether it's the price. It's more that I just don't vibe with it, or I don't kind of, it doesn't mesh with me. So yeah, so never to impulse buy. That's the thing. Don't impulse buy. I think that would help my idealized self is impulse buyer. My real self is, I feel guilty now because I've got, say for example, the Shadowscapes Tarot. I can't get rid of it. Like, if anybody wants and I'm gonna just get it here. If anybody wants to trade the Shadowscapes Tarot, it's been very lightly used. You know, drop me a follow on Instagram and give me a message if anybody wants to trade it, because I'm just not going to use it, and it's sat here, and I don't want to spend that time having to resell it on like eBay and things like that. And it's because it's just work. I'd rather it go to somebody else, and maybe, you know, if they've got something that they think I might like to offer, then that's fair enough, and we'll do a trade. But yeah, that's directed me off the point. So yeah, I'm really becoming very much, it's okay not to buy decks. It's okay to have my decks in my collection and not to have any more. I've got more than enough. I've got, I think, a really vast range of readers and different decks. I don't need to feed into that anymore. And I think that's kind of being true to myself there, and not kind of going, oh look, I've got another deck or things like that. Yeah, maybe, and that's maybe where my channel's maybe going to change, in that I'm going to do less about the decks that I've got coming in and more about working with the decks that I have and things like that. But anyway, this video has been very long. As you know, it wouldn't be a Nikki video without it being chatty and waffly. So thank you for listening to the waffle. If you liked it, please drop me a like, drop me a comment. I always love, I respond to all comments. And yeah, I have really enjoyed doing this tag because it's really got me thinking. It's really got those cogs going. Thank you to Julia at Highly Sensitive Tarot for me being able to see the tag, and thank you to Somatic Sorceress for creating the tag. It's been really, really good to do. Yeah, so yeah, if anybody kind of wants to make me an offer on any of my decks that I kind of want to get shut of, yeah, maybe drop me a line. But I will see you again soon, my beautiful moonbeams. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourself. No matter what you're doing, no matter whether you've got one deck or whether you've got 200, enjoy yourself, have a lovely weekend, and I will catch you soon for another video. Bye, moonbeams.